Okay, in this video I just want to show you how to rough this outer square area of the block. If you remember, I have 3 mm per side on all around. Again, it's Toolpaths, and I'm just going to use a standard contour here. And you'll see that it's opened in the solids chaining. And just to sort of demonstrate that, if I select wireframe and if I went to view and up here select wireframe, um, if I actually pick the wireframe off the solid model, it doesn't work. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're picking on solids. So again, I'm going to just go for outline shaded. I tend to, when I'm working off the solid model, my preference is to show it as a solid as opposed to wireframe. Okay, then we've got various options on here. This is to select a single edge, which will be just one line or one arc. This is a loop or a chain of edges. So I'm going to use the loop option to select all the way around the outer rectangle. Just like selecting off a wireframe, um, if I pick on this towards this end point of the line, it's going to cut in this direction. If I go over halfway and select it on this end point, it will go in the opposite direction. So maybe just to demo that, if I was to select a single edge, and if I was to pick that line there, you'll see it's going to start here and just go along that edge, finishing at the red arrow. Okay, I'm going to unselect all. And obviously then with the edge again, if I was to pick off this end, it's starting in this direction and going here. It is always possible to reverse the edges when you select, but it's just handy in the beginning to get used to the idea of if you select in the correct area, it'll go the correct direction for you. Okay, so I'm going to unselect all, and obviously I want a full loop. So we will look at some of these options in later videos, but for the moment I'm going to select a loop, pick on this edge here, and you'll see that it highlights this full rectangle. Now we're given an option here for an other face, and obviously when you pick a geometry off a 3D model, if I click other face, you can see that I have also got the option to profile all the way around this edge here. Obviously that's not what I want, so click other face again and that toggles back. There's only two faces available off this edge, obviously the bottom profile and this side profile along on here. So green tick and OK. Again, it's allowing me to select more chains, but that's the only geometry that I want to go around. So green tick, tool, and again select a library tool. And I'm just going to check my filter, and I can see that I've only got n mils, and I'm going to say equal to 12 mil and go green tick. So it's tool number 5 in this case. Okay, again on our tool list set up on our machines, this end mill is specifically a carbide end mill for aluminium, which is what we're machining at the moment. So I need to double click on that, and again the edit tool dialog box opens. Again, we might want to check that our cutting length was the same. I have a feeling with this tool here the cutting length is 25 millimeters. Sorry, 25 millimeters. If I was checking for collision, that would actually check whether I was cutting on the shank. So I'm just going to go next on here. Tool number, this is tool number 12 that's in our machine. Okay, and obviously again you can see the length and diameter offsets update. The cutting speed for this particular tool when I'm roughing is 280, and the feed per tooth is 0.08, but this tool only has 3 flutes. So that will then calculate my spindle speed at about 7,500 revs and my feed rate. And again, inputting cutting speed and feed per tooth, it's obviously vital that I have the correct number of flutes, otherwise my speeds and feeds could be incorrect. And finish. Again on here I'm going to put in a comment, so rough outer contour. Okay, cut parameters. Similar to wireframe, I'm going to, because I'm roughing, I'm going to let Mastercam handle the compensation because I'm going to leave 0.6 on the sidewalls. So I don't want the ability to change the size of the roughing cut. I will change this to control when I'm doing a finish cut. Um, lead in, lead out. Again, you can see here by default, enter and exit at the midpoint of the closed contour. So because I've started at this area here, it's the lead in, lead out is going to come on the center of this here. If I want it to come onto the corner, obviously I can uncheck that. And I'm just going to leave the defaults for the moment. Break through. So in this particular case, you might remember that I picked the bottom surface of the model. So I'm actually going to include a break through 0.8 of a millimeter. So I'm going to go down 0.8 deeper than the area that I have selected. Okay, so linking parameters. So my retract is set to 6 millimeters absolute. My feed plane is incrementally 10. Well, that means it's 10 millimeters incrementally above the top of the stock. The top of the stock is set to 0, and my depth is set to 0 incremental, which essentially means it'll be 0 from the edge of the model that I've picked. So in this case, it will be 0 from the bottom of the model plus my breakthrough. So green tick and accept that. So now you can see I'm basically rapiding to here, feeding all the way down to here and around the block. So I'm just going to select all operations, verify the selected operations. I have a stop on collision set, and I'm checking for collision between the holder, the shank, the shoulder, and also the cutting length. So if I press play. So here you can see I have paused due to a collision. And the reason I have a collision in this case is that the cutting length of the tool is 25 millimeters, and you can obviously see that I'm going down further than 25, so I have a collision. Okay, so a way to overcome the collision then would be to do this pass in 2 depths of cut. But first of all, I just want to check what the distance is from this surface down to the bottom. So I'm just going to, on the home page here, I'm analyze distance. I'm going to pick the end point of that and move my model around, and we'll say pick to that end point there. And you can see that that distance there, the Z value is 27 millimeters. So it's 27 millimeters. Plus I have a breakthrough of 0.8 of a millimeters. So again, if I was to look at the front, the depth that the toolpath is going down is 0.8 of a millimeter below the 27. So we'll say it's 28 millimeters deep for argument's sake. So I'm going to go back to my cut parameters, and in order depth cuts, I'm going to put that in as 28 divided by 2. Okay, or 14 millimeters. Regenerate my toolpath. Isometric. So now you can see that I'm doing this in 2 passes. And again, if I was to select all operations and verify, just to check that I have no collision, and play. So you can see now I've got no collision warnings. Finally, just one other thing to show you maybe is if I look at the parameters here, with the quick view settings, it's quite easy or a nice feature to be able to see what tool I'm using, for example, if the coolant's on or off, etc. Okay.